Welcome to Just Listen Books channel. Immerse yourself in the world of literature as we summarize books and deliver them in audio form. Perfect for your car rides, travels, and daily activities. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification. The Body Keeps the Score. Brain, Mind, and Body in the Healing of Trauma by Bessel van der Kolk is a seminal work in the field of trauma and its treatment. Published in 2014, this book synthesizes decades of research and clinical practice to explore the profound impact of trauma on the mind, brain, and body. Van der Kolk delves into the nature of traumatic experiences, how they alter the way the brain processes information, and the enduring effects they have on an individual's physiology, emotions, and capacity to form relationships. Nature of trauma. Van der Kolk defines trauma not just in terms of the events that cause it, but more importantly by the internal upheaval and lasting changes it creates in an individual's psyche and physiology. Brain and trauma. The book details how traumatic experiences can rewire the brain, affecting areas responsible for processing threats, emotions, and memories. This can lead to hyperarousal, flashbacks, and an inability to feel safe or connected to others. Body's memory. A central thesis of the book is that the body keeps a physical record of trauma, often leading to chronic physical and emotional discomfort. Trauma survivors might experience this as inexplicable pain, tension, or emotional numbness. Attachment and trauma. The author explores the impact of trauma on attachment, highlighting the difficulties trauma survivors face in forming and maintaining healthy relationships due to their altered perceptions of safety and trust. Pathways to recovery. Van der Kolk emphasizes the importance of therapies that go beyond traditional talk therapy, advocating for approaches that integrate the body and mind. He discusses various treatments, including eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR, yoga, and mindfulness, that can help reestablish a sense of control and ownership over one's body and emotions. Structure of the book. The book is structured into 5 parts, each addressing different aspects of trauma and healing. Part 1. The rediscovery of trauma. In The Body Keeps the Score, the chapter on the rediscovery of trauma serves as a foundational introduction, outlining the historical context and evolving understanding of trauma. Bessel van der Kolk uses this section to trace how perceptions of trauma have shifted over time, influenced by societal changes, wars, and advances in psychology and neuroscience. This historical perspective is crucial for understanding current approaches to trauma treatment and the importance of recognizing trauma's deep impact on the individual. Key themes and topics. Historical perspectives on trauma. The chapter begins by exploring early observations of trauma. These terms were early attempts to describe the psychological impact of war on soldiers, noting symptoms that we would now associate with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. The influence of wars. Each major conflict, including the Vietnam War, brought more attention to the psychological scars left on soldiers, leading to changes in how these conditions were named and understood. The Vietnam War, in particular, was a turning point that led to the formal recognition of PTSD in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, DSM, in 1980. Shifts in psychological theory. Van der Kolk discusses the role of psychological movements, such as Freudian psychoanalysis, in shaping early understandings of trauma. Initially, trauma was often viewed through the lens of individual pathology rather than as a normal response to abnormal events. Over time, this view shifted as more attention was given to the external events causing trauma rather than blaming the victim's psyche. Rise of neuroscience. The chapter highlights the importance of advances in neuroscience in understanding trauma. With the advent of technologies like MRI and PET scans, researchers could observe the brain's response to traumatic memories and stress, leading to a deeper understanding of trauma's physiological underpinnings. Trauma beyond war. Van der Kolk expands the concept of trauma beyond soldiers and war, recognizing that traumatic experiences can stem from a wide range of sources, including childhood abuse, sexual assault, accidents, and natural disasters. This broader definition of trauma acknowledges the diverse ways in which individuals can be traumatized and the various forms trauma can take. The body's role in trauma. A significant contribution of this chapter is the emphasis on the physical aspects of trauma. Van der Kolk introduces the idea that trauma is not solely a psychological phenomenon, but one that is deeply embodied, with the body keeping the score through symptoms like chronic pain, tension, and somatic responses. Impact on the field. This historical overview sets the stage for the book's main argument that effective trauma treatment must address the whole person, integrating mind and body approaches. By understanding the history of trauma treatment, readers can appreciate the complexity of trauma and the need for comprehensive, nuanced therapeutic approaches. Van der Kolk's work challenges both mental health professionals and society at large to reconceptualize trauma and its treatment, moving away from purely cognitive or talk-based therapies to include somatic and experiential methods that acknowledge the body's integral role in storing and processing traumatic experiences. Part 2. This is Your Brain on Trauma. In the section titled, This is Your Brain on Trauma, Bessel van der Kolk provides a detailed exploration of the neuroscience behind trauma, emphasizing how traumatic experiences can fundamentally alter brain structure and function. This part of the book is crucial for understanding the physiological underpinnings of trauma-related symptoms and behaviors, bridging the gap between psychological experiences and biological reality. Key concepts and neurological impact. Brain areas affected by trauma. Amygdala. Often referred to as the brain's alarm system, the amygdala plays a key role in processing fear and emotional memories. Trauma can lead to an overactive amygdala, making individuals more reactive to perceived threats and contributing to heightened states of anxiety and fear. Hippocampus. This region is essential for memory formation and retrieval. Trauma can impair the hippocampus, leading to difficulties with memory consolidation and an increased risk of flashbacks and intrusive memories. Prefrontal cortex. Involved in decision-making, impulse control, and self-regulation, the prefrontal cortex can become less active following trauma. This reduction in activity can impair an individual's ability to manage emotions, make reasoned decisions, and respond appropriately to stress. Neuroplasticity and trauma. Van der Kolk discusses the concept of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change and adapt in response to experiences. While this property allows for learning and growth, it also means that traumatic experiences can reshape the brain in maladaptive ways, reinforcing pathways associated with fear, hypervigilance, and emotional dysregulation. Stress response systems. The book details how trauma affects the body's stress response systems, including the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal (HPA) axis. Chronic activation of this stress response can lead to a range of physiological and psychological issues, including increased inflammation, hormonal imbalances, and a pervasive sense of threat. Dissociation and the brain. Van der Kolk explains the phenomenon of dissociation, where individuals may feel detached from their bodies or emotions as a protective response to trauma. Neuroscientific studies show that this can be linked to changes in brain areas responsible for self-awareness and body integration, such as the insula and somatosensory cortex. Trauma and the body. The section reinforces the idea that trauma is not just a psychological event, but also a physiological one, with the brain's alterations manifesting in physical symptoms like tension, chronic pain, and autonomic nervous system dysregulation. Implications for treatment. Understanding the neuroscience of trauma has significant implications for treatment. Traditional talk therapies may not be sufficient for addressing the deep-rooted changes in the brain and body. Van der Kolk advocates for treatments that can help rewire the brain and restore a sense of safety in the body. These may include therapies that directly engage the body and sensory experiences, such as eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR, somatic experiencing, and mindfulness practices. By elucidating the neurological impacts of trauma, This is Your Brain on Trauma underscores the complexity of trauma-related disorders and the necessity for holistic, integrative treatment approaches. This knowledge empowers clinicians to develop therapies that address the root of trauma symptoms and fosters a deeper empathy for individuals' experiences of trauma, recognizing them as physiological and neurological reactions to extraordinary stress, rather than mere psychological constructs. Part 3. The Minds of Children. In the section, The Minds of Children, Bessel van der Kolk delves into the profound impact of trauma on children, focusing on how adverse experiences during critical developmental stages can shape a child's brain, psychological development, and capacity for relationships. This part of the book emphasizes the vulnerability of children to trauma and the lasting effects it can have on their emotional and cognitive growth. Developmental impact of trauma. Brain development. Van der Kolk explains that trauma can significantly affect the developing brain of a child. The experiences children have shape their brain architecture, and traumatic events can lead to changes in areas of the brain involved in emotion regulation, cognition, and attachment. For instance, chronic stress and trauma can impair the development of the prefrontal cortex, which is crucial for executive functions and self-regulation. Attachment and relationships. The section highlights the role of secure attachment in a child's development. Traumatic experiences, especially those involving caregivers, can disrupt the formation of a secure attachment bond. This disruption can lead to difficulties in forming healthy relationships later in life, as the child may develop maladaptive attachment styles, anxious, avoidant, or disorganized, that affect how they relate to others. Emotional regulation. Trauma can significantly impair a child's ability to regulate emotions. Exposure to traumatic events can lead to a heightened stress response, making it difficult for children to calm down after upsetting incidents. This can manifest as behavioral issues, extreme reactions to minor triggers, or difficulty expressing emotions appropriately. Impact on learning and cognition. Traumatic stress can affect a child's cognitive functions, including attention, memory, and problem-solving skills. Van der Kolk discusses how the constant state of hyperarousal or dissociation can make it challenging for children to focus, process new information, and succeed academically. The role of supportive environments. Healing power of relationships. Van der Kolk emphasizes the critical role of supportive and stable relationships in mitigating the effects of trauma. Caring relationships with adults, whether parents, teachers, or therapists, can provide the safety and security needed for children to explore their environments and learn new skills. Trauma-informed care in schools and communities. The author advocates for trauma-informed approaches in schools and community settings, where adults are aware of the signs of trauma and understand how to provide the support that traumatized children need. This involves creating safe spaces, establishing routines, and using disciplinary methods that do not re-traumatize the child. Therapeutic interventions. Specific therapeutic interventions can be particularly effective for children who have experienced trauma. Techniques such as play therapy, art therapy, and other nonverbal therapies can help children express and process their experiences in a safe and controlled environment. Additionally, family therapy can be crucial in repairing and strengthening the parent-child relationship. Resilience and recovery. Despite the significant challenges posed by childhood trauma, Van der Kolk highlights the potential for resilience and recovery. With the right support and interventions, children can learn to manage their emotions, develop healthy relationships, and lead fulfilling lives. The section underscores the importance of early intervention and the capacity of children to overcome the effects of trauma with adequate support. Part 4. The Imprint of Trauma. In the Imprint of Trauma section of The Body Keeps the Score, Bessel van der Kolk provides an in-depth look at how trauma leaves a lasting mark on individuals, affecting their thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and sense of self. This part of the book is critical for understanding the diverse and complex manifestations of trauma, highlighting the pervasive impact trauma can have on a person's life. Manifestations of trauma. Re-experiencing traumatic events. One of the most common and distressing effects of trauma is the involuntary re-experiencing of traumatic events, often in the form of flashbacks or nightmares. Kolk explains that these are not mere memories but vivid, often sensory, relivings of the trauma, as if the event were happening in the present. This can be triggered by reminders of the trauma or even occur spontaneously, leading to significant distress and disruption in daily life. Avoidance of trauma. Reminders. Individuals who have experienced trauma often go to great lengths to avoid reminders of their traumatic experiences. This can include avoiding people, places, activities, or even thoughts and feelings that are associated with the trauma. Kolk discusses how this avoidance can restrict a person's life and reinforce feelings of isolation and fear. Alterations in perception and self-awareness. Trauma can fundamentally alter how individuals perceive the world and themselves. Kolk highlights how trauma survivors may experience a distorted sense of time, with the past feeling ever present and the future seeming bleak or non-existent. There can also be a profound sense of disconnection from oneself, leading to feelings of detachment, numbness, or a fragmented sense of identity. Hyperarousal and hypervigilance. The book details how trauma can lead to a persistent state of hyperarousal, where the individual is constantly on edge, scanning for threats. This state of heightened alertness, or hypervigilance, can manifest as anxiety, irritability, sleep disturbances, and difficulty concentrating. Changes in emotional regulation. Trauma can cause significant changes in how individuals experience and express emotions. Kolk describes how some people may become overwhelmed by intense, uncontrollable emotions, while others may feel numb or disconnected from their emotions. This can lead to difficulties in managing relationships and coping with stress. Somatic symptoms. A key theme of the book is the embodiment of trauma. Kolk explores how traumatic experiences are often stored in the body, leading to unexplained physical symptoms such as chronic pain, tension, and somatic complaints. These symptoms are not just physical manifestations, but are deeply intertwined with the psychological aspects of trauma. Understanding the impact. Kolk uses this section to emphasize the need for a comprehensive approach to treating trauma, one that addresses not only the psychological, but also the physical and somatic aspects. He argues that traditional talk therapies may not be sufficient for individuals who experience the world through the lens of their trauma, advocating for the inclusion of body-based therapies and techniques that can help individuals process and integrate their traumatic experiences. The imprint of trauma is a powerful reminder of the deep and lasting effects trauma can have on an individual's life. By examining the various ways in which trauma manifests, Kolk provides valuable insights into the challenges faced by trauma survivors and the importance of compassionate, holistic approaches to healing. Part 5. Paths to Recovery. In the Paths to Recovery section of The Body Keeps the Score, Bessel Kolk presents an optimistic and comprehensive overview of the various therapeutic approaches available for healing from trauma. This section is pivotal as it moves beyond the understanding of trauma's impact to focus on recovery and healing, emphasizing the importance of integrated treatments that address both the mind and the body. Therapeutic approaches. Highlighted. Trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, TFCBT. Kolk discusses TFCBT as an effective approach for processing traumatic memories and changing the negative thought patterns associated with them. This therapy combines cognitive behavioral techniques with specific strategies for dealing with traumatic stress. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR. EMDR is presented as a unique and powerful treatment that helps individuals process and integrate traumatic memories through guided eye movements. Kolk explains how EMDR can reduce the emotional intensity of traumatic memories, making them less overwhelming. Somatic experiencing. Emphasizing the body's role in trauma, Kolk describes somatic experiencing as a therapeutic approach that focuses on bodily sensations and movements to release and resolve trauma-related energy and tension. This method helps individuals gradually retune their nervous systems away from the constant threat response. Yoga and mindfulness. The author highlights the benefits of yoga and mindfulness practices for trauma survivors. These practices can help individuals develop a greater sense of presence, self-awareness, and control over their physiological states, contributing to a sense of safety and grounding. Neurofeedback. Van der Kolk introduces neurofeedback as a technique that allows individuals to observe and modify their brain activity in real time, helping to regulate dysregulated brain patterns associated with trauma. Art and drama therapy. These creative therapies are discussed as avenues through which individuals can express and process traumatic experiences non-verbally, facilitating healing when words are insufficient or too difficult to articulate. Group therapy and community support. The importance of social support and connection is underscored, with group therapy and community involvement presented as crucial for reducing isolation, building resilience, and fostering a sense of belonging and shared experience. The importance of personalized treatment. Van der Kolk stresses the importance of tailoring the therapeutic approach to the individual's unique experiences, needs, and preferences. He advocates for a holistic perspective on treatment, one that considers the person as a whole and integrates various therapeutic modalities as needed. The choice of therapy should resonate with the individual's life story, symptoms, and personal goals for recovery. The healing potential. Paths to Recovery is imbued with a message of hope, emphasizing that while the impact of trauma can be profound and far-reaching, recovery is indeed possible. Van der Kolk's inclusive approach to treatment options reflects an understanding of the diverse ways individuals experience and heal from trauma. This section serves as a guide for both survivors and practitioners, offering insights into the journey of healing and the many paths that can lead to a regained sense of self, empowerment, and connection to others. Impact and reception. The Body Keeps the Score has been widely praised for its compassionate approach to understanding and treating trauma. It is considered essential reading for mental health professionals, but it is also accessible to a general audience, offering insights and hope to those affected by trauma. The book has contributed significantly to a broader and more holistic understanding of trauma, emphasizing the importance of recognizing the interconnectedness of the mind, brain, and body in both the impact of trauma and the journey toward healing. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Your support means the world to us. Click subscribe and hit the bell to be the first to enjoy our upcoming audiobooks. Together, let's continue this amazing journey through stories and tales.